Okay, let's get started. So, if you saw in the lobby, I had the way out is in. That's the topic today. The way out is in. So anyway, what I did was, I thought about this. I wrote down some key phrases here that I was going to discuss during the meeting. And I figured, hey, why not? We always like to get to the point here. We don't like to fool around. We want to get to that, what we call a spiritual awakening, right? So here I decided to do was to read you some of the one-line phrases that I set up for this meeting. And for you, this was a good opportunity for you to think them through and come to your own decision, your own resolution, right? Because people really can't tell us anything. It has to be that spiritual enlightenment, has to be that awakening. We talked about that Eastern koans, where there's just a phrase, and the thing to do was to figure out the answer, to get that enlightenment. Because if somebody tells you the answer, you really didn't come to the conclusion, and you might just regard it. So I have here's the first one. Listen to this. The ego is not who you are. You always say this, that we could start with this one phrase. The ego is not who you are. Also, to think everything the ego thinks about drives us to the wrong direction, listening to ourselves, our perception. But anyway, let me read down a list here. We are in a prison. That's related to the first one. Do you realize, and I talk about this in many meetings, our lives were in a prison, right? Right now, and I told you, I went to that lecture, and the guy running the lecture said, you can walk out of that prison right now. Right now, he says, you can be free. We're imprisonment, enslaved by the ego, the selfishness, self-centeredness. That was our problem. So, right now, if you're unhappy, if you're in self-centered fear, it's called, we have a way here. We're going to talk about how to get out of that. And then not only, get out of the fear, but we can use the same energy. Listen to this. You can use that same energy to be blissful. People say I have these certain chemicals in my brain causing me to, like say, be depressed, be anxious. Do you think the chemicals really differentiate between, well, I'll give you depressive chemicals are great? No. A lot of times, maybe, I don't know. I'm not going to, tell you 100% on that. But a lot of times our thinking, that change of perception, using those same chemicals and releasing them to be happy, right? It's just a perception change of thinking. And we are one here, we are one with the great energy, right? When we're in the self, we're isolated, we're finite. But when we have this, and the whole program is about this higher consciousness, the steps, when we could sit here, we could sit here right now and just be in that enjoyment. The breath alone, our breathing, just feeling that, being in the present. Do you realize how that joy and happiness comes in? There's a phrase, be still and you will know. We just have to be still. We can be out of that prison right now. Spirituality is a way of strength. The other way, through self-knowledge, having our PhD, or having trying to figure it out, analyze everything, is the way of being finite in the self. There is no figuring out. There is no answer to find happiness. It just is. The joy and blissfulness just is. But we, through our, it's called, in our program, it's called defects of character. So what do? We block it out. We stand in the way of it. Our ego, and the first phrase was, the ego is not who you are. But we think it is. What is the ego? It's what people told us when we grew up. It's everything that they told us life was. That's what our ego is. So we're being imprisoned. If our parents told us, or our teachers at school, or our peers said we had to be likable, we had to, all of these things, the craziness and nonsense. And then we wonder why billionaires, why as a rich person, it's harder for them to get, as they say, to get this program. Why, when we're sitting there thinking about our daily plans, did somebody say something to us that was negative? Why can't we just be here and be happy? Be still. Be still. I used to go to a meeting, and everybody go around the room, and people had their problems, and they had real problems. I told you that experience I had where I would talk about, the steps in step 3 and letting go, and the promises when I would share at the meetings, and people in the parking lot would say to me, and one guy said, he said, look, Bob, you got to understand, you come here and you talk about how good things are, but people here have real problems, right? Real problems. I guess so, because they talked about the same problem. I was there, go back a year, 4 years later, 10 years later, they had the same problems. So why was it real, right? We're either in the solution or in the problem. If I sit here and tell you, look, I have a problem with my mother-in-law, somebody in my life, my children, anybody in my family, what stranger, clerk in a store, I'm telling you what, I'm making it real. Do you realize that that's all from the ego? when we realize the falseness of our thinking, the craziness of it, this is our spiritual awakening. This is called, and actually, I have something here, and it's from the song Amazing Grace, right? The grace of the higher power. And sometimes we use the phrase, did the light switch go on? Or do you get it? Do you get it? I mean, we could finally get it right here, right now. We don't have to figure it out, analyze it, go through, feel our emotions. When I have anger, resentment, and fear, I want to get rid of it like a hot coal. I don't want to hold on to it. You know why? A lot of people said, Bob, go through it, work through it, feel it. Again, these are things, these suppositions I'm telling you, right? A lot of people, look, they don't agree with this. They say, I could tell you, I had a list in the last meeting of like 10 different things. And I was thinking, hey, people are going to leave the meeting because they don't want to hear this. I talked about self-esteem, how that was wrong. All kinds of stuff. I have a list here of all these things I talked about. In this book, it talks about common sense will become uncommon sense. And look, for anybody who wants to argue with me and give me feedback that these things are not true, I want to ask you in your life, how are things working out for you now? How are they working out? I told you that happened to me. I went to this guy for some help, and I said to him all of these ways I wanted to control things and tell people off, and I wanted to tell people, and control them, and he just said, how's that working out for you? And I had to sit there and realize my life was a mess. I was on drugs, alcohol. And again, we talk about here with the food. I was into the food. I was into the selfishness, self-centeredness. I was miserable and depressed. So I don't have to be that way anymore because all of that thinking is false. All of that thinking is false. The way out is in. The topic here is the way out is in. The way out, I always thought, was the way out. If I changed the world around me, my life would be great. So again, all of these things we're thinking about right now are coming from the false sense of self. How do we know that? Because 10 people in a room will have 10 different opinions. You call up 10 people about your problems, and you know what they're all sitting there saying? Why are they so upset? Because it's all perception change. Hey, let me take I just thought of an example, like somebody, they getting divorced, okay? So a guy, or they call up a bunch of their friends, and some of the others there are even jealous or envious. They say, I wish I could be, and not out of the marriage, or, it could be anything in life. It's an example I'm just using, just hit me now, but it's our perception of life. So when we're miserable, irritable, and discontent, we're thinking of the self. Okay, it's the ego, it's the self-centeredness, selfishness, self-centeredness.